Salute to all y'all, man. But in this video, I want to speak on why silence improves your life, family. So, let's talk about it, y'all. When you move in silence, y'all, life gets better, 100%. If you trust yourself, you stay on progress with everything, family, and you don't worry about nothing. Time goes by fast. But you must trust the process, y'all, and live in a silent phase. It's not forever, but it's to remind you that you gotta focus on yourself, family. You wanna take everything serious, because all you have is time right now, y'all. Especially if you're, someone young right now, family, you got all the time in the world to do what you wanna do. So, take time in silence, y'all. Not to remove anybody or cut people off, but to get closer to yourself, y'all, and to stick to, a rhythm, to be more, on pace with it, because you want to get farther to your destination, y'all. You don't want to keep, waiting at bus stops or, trips, y'all. You want to get to where you're going faster, family. So I remind y'all, the key to, staying on the journey, y'all. People want to ask me, what keeps you motivated, family? But, I always tell your family that, my life has improved drastically just by being silent, y'all, because I focus on myself more. So all these thoughts, y'all, are flowing within me, y'all, that I can act on or just sit aside and think about. But, not saying I don't hang around nobody, y'all. It's just I choose to stay, around myself, y'all, and I choose to, acquire this energy and build it and create new ideas, y'all, and push them out. And that's how I make this YouTube, But for the people who are wondering, y'all, should you, stick to being silent? 100%, y'all. Silence is always gonna show you the right way anyway, y'all, because it shows you without being desperate. You don't gotta rely on nothing from being silent, y'all. All you do is get closer to yourself and realize that things you did that you liked or you didn't like. But I remind your family that it's a challenge, y'all, because though I tell y'all, silence is a better factor, you may simply not like that idea because you may like to be around others. You may like the validation more. You may not be more so focused on, self-improvement right now. That's okay, that's fine. But, for someone who wants to reach full enlightenment, get closer to the, their destination, y'all, and just the journey in general, y'all want to feel better about yourself. It's better to take, let's just say, a spiritual hajj, y'all, but more so focus on yourself, y'all, because silence, y'all, and all it is reminding you that, I gotta take care of myself, and I gotta be more visual, more, action taking, and more focused about what I'm doing, y'all, because you're not here forever, family. But not only that, you're never gonna get a second chance if you're not gonna put the first chance in display, y'all. So I remind y'all, family, that, if you can do it, I salute to you. But if you can one day. You can if you really, try to. But it's not about can, it's about will you. Do you really want to, cut all distractions off, y'all, and stick to, your plan in life, y'all? Everybody has a mission. It's just the thing that they realize is that it's not even their craft. It's not even their, work ethic. Your work ethic might be 100. You might show up, but distribution, results, or just everything else that you want will always come after your hard work, y'all, because you're the one putting in everything to create results, y'all. It's just you gotta put more in than what you are getting in return, y'all. That's how it always goes. But you put more in, y'all, and you focus better, y'all. Your clarity becomes more better for you, especially when you are silent, y'all, because you're not worried about what people are saying or what people are pushing on to you or what they're trying to focus on dealing with you, y'all. So I remind y'all, family, that if you was to ask me why'd I go silent, I've been living silent for a long time because I learned in this world, that telling people everything you have, yo. Or let's just say you want to tell someone your goals, right? Or they gonna laugh at you, or they might laugh at you when they need from you. You might not know, but you will one day, yo. If you know that person's true intentions chooses to come to the surface. But you know, I mentioned this topic because that saves you that whole, story that I just provided y'all with, family. This is from my experience, y'all. I'll remind y'all that silence has taught me to become more of a person that's enduring and action taking. But I remind myself that I thank my younger days, y'all, because I would never be silent, y'all, if it wasn't for the attention seeking that I was around, y'all, or just telling everybody what I'm gonna do, y'all, because I had that confidence. I know that everybody's gonna be confident and believing in me, y'all, because everybody has their own life to deal with, y'all, and not everybody feels that way about you because they don't feel that way about themselves. So I remind y'all that it's not that you don't want to tell nobody your problems because you just don't want to. It's because you don't want to feel like you're wasting your time. Instead of telling or proving to someone, it's better to just show someone your end results, yo. But you can't, yo, if you ain't working towards that. So this is exactly why life gets better for you when you move in silence, yo. You will gain more financially, yo, because you're not around others. So you're not going out and you're not spending money, especially if you buy snacks just like that. Hell no, because you're not even gonna be worried about buying a head full like that either, yo, because you're gonna be worried about getting stronger. That mental clarity comes from your strength, yo, and how much of workout you can do for your body to endure, yo. So for all the people that are sticking to silence, yo, I'll remind you that you're on the right path to greatness, yo. That's all it starts with. It starts with a silent man getting everything he wants because he's focused, yo. Distraction becomes your worst enemy, yo. If you fall for that or you dwell into it, So before I end this video, I just want to say I appreciate you for watching this video. If you had stuck all the way to the end, I will come at y'all with another video tomorrow, y'all, and I've been as consistent as ever, y'all, because this shit has been a passion of mine for a while. But I remind you always and will forever that silence is your best friend, y'all, because you start thinking about how people have treated you. You start looking at how the world is, remind you of how it is and not how it should be. And you start taking, measures on how people's perspectives are about you because, let's just say you have once told somebody about what you wanted to do or your everyday life. They might ask, they might worry, they might, just talk about you to other people. Have you ever heard this saying, yo, that if you're around somebody that talks about somebody else with you, well then most definitely they're talking about you with somebody else, yo. That's our old saying, Yes, that is true, yo. And that's because, yo, people thrive off of validation and chaos and toxicity, yo. But you expel that, yo, with just not being there or giving anybody time for you to say anything, yo, because all that energy goes to your desires, yo, which equal a long-term results for you. So this is what I say, yo, that if you can focus in your earlier days and stay silent, yo, and speak to the ones that care, speak to the ones that want to know, speak to the ones that want to help you or aid you on your conquest. But I remind you though that not everybody wants to see you winning because this world is made to keep you down, yo. It's a universal vibrational, world we live on, yo. It's not even about your flesh. It's about how one feels and how one's operating, emotionally. If one has emotions, yo, one is tied to something. One can get, knocked off or distracted by a feeling. The one who's emotionalist, yo, doesn't, because he's not going off of what he's looking at, he's going off of what he believes in. That's the difference, yo. And you get stronger being alone, yo, when you're in that silence, yo. So this was a video, family, and I hope that, you know, this is why it's more important to just not say nothing, yo. You know, just move cold, you know. Don't even speak at all, yo. You know, let your actions do the work. Your life will get better, though. I promise you that, because my life has got better, you know. And this is why I say, yo, life will get better when you move this way, on this path. You know, don't worry about everybody else, yo. They can't help you, you know, unless they want to be a part of your tribe and want to help win with you, you know. But I'll see y'all on the next video. This is why it's most important.